So, of course, I got to ask you about this AIW thing.
Sure.
What's up with that? What's up with that?
Yeah, I figured we can talk about it before they do their little podcast, right?
Sure.
AIW,
Hey, you don't get to call it a little podcast, Matt. We don't have to demean other podcasts here.
I'm not demeaning anybody's podcast, but I think our podcast is a little bit more superior. That's just a personal opinion. But the main thing that happened, it was a miscommunication. They asked me what dates I was free, and they asked me back in August, and I said, and they asked me about this date, 12/30th, and I said it's free at the moment, but I still have to talk to Evolve and other promotions before I can agree to anything. And I guess they took it as me saying I'm free at the moment as a yes, I'm going to work for you. And then we really didn't get to talk after our last time I worked for AIW, and I wrestled a couple teams there and there. And I'll be honest, even my first match there, I wrestled Lewis Linden, who isn't a bad wrestler, but he plays a pirate. He's a pirate, And they had me put over a pirate because they got kicked in the nuts, and I had to put over a pirate. And then they had me put over two luchadors that didn't know how to fucking wrestle. And so after that, I honestly didn't want to work for them. I told them that then, and they still kept sending me dates. And then they just advertised me on their card, and they were selling tickets using my name. So I texted them. I said, I didn't give you permission to do that. So if you could, take me down. And, that's about it. I didn't agree to wrestle for you, so don't promote me as such. It's not fair to me, and it's not fair to the fans. And I guess, he didn't respond back to me, and the next thing I knew, he tweeted something out, And it seemed like, if anything, it got more whiplash back on them because they were extremely unprofessional about the situation.
So you done forever with AIW? Do you think that's a bridge you all can maybe fix in the future?
I don't think it's a bridge I want to fix in the future. The second that news was released, I got multiple booking offers at multiple different places, and I'll be wrestling at AAW December 30th in Chicago. So it wasn't a matter of availability or anything like that. It was probably the way I was treated when I was in Cleveland, Ohio, and probably, it was just the way they run their promotion. I wasn't the biggest fan. And I don't want to put anybody down. It wasn't for me. I didn't like the locker room environment, and I didn't like a lot of other things and how they ran things, And I made that pretty clear, but like I said, they still advertised me even though I didn't agree to certain dates. And that's it. And trust me, I was as nice as I could be about it. And even if you look at what I tweeted about it, I was extremely professional and I kept it friendly. And even now, I'm keeping it pretty friendly. I'm just telling you the truth, right?
So how do you think that they handled the situation on Twitter, social media?
I think they handled it like I don't know, like a 15-year-old. They went right to Twitter. They didn't really talk to me about the situation. They just went to Twitter and said I didn't like the way it was booked. Which isn't the case. It's not the way I was booked. It's just the big thing is I didn't see a future with the company in the sense like you weren't having me work decent people. You weren't having me like work any storylines. You just had me come in and do random matches. And on top of that, it's like I was doing singles matches. Now I'm doing tag matches. And like I said, they usually have like 20 matches per card. You're there for like 4 or 6 hours, and things just, like I said, it's just not my atmosphere I like or environment. Like when I wrestle for Evolve or other big shows, there's usually like 5 to 10 matches max. We stay to our cues, so we stay to our times. The locker room's professional. We talk to one another and make sure the card is ran smoothly and perfectly, and we are competitive with one another in the locker room, but in a friendly manner. That just isn't the case there.
So I'll play devil's advocate here. You said that you weren't necessarily upset with how you were booked, but you had told me I got kicked in the balls by a pirate and lost to a couple luchadors that didn't know how to wrestle. Could you see their side of that, how they could think that?
Oh yeah, of course. And trust me, that was part of the reason I didn't like the way I was booked. For sure, that was definitely part of it. But there was a lot more than just that. It wasn't like, well, I just don't like the way I'm being booked. It was the lack of storyline, and they depend on me to drive multiple wrestlers for them, and I would have to drive about 8 hours to get to Cleveland, Ohio. And they weren't really compensating me for that either, but I would rather not bring that up. I don't want to break them through the mud. They've already, it's not worth my time or my, my energy.
Usually that's what, like probably about a 6-hour drive for you before, if you didn't have to pick people up.
Yeah, it was usually like a 6 to 7.5 hour drive, depending on traffic and stuff. And the big issue
you're in Western Pennsylvania, correct? Or Eastern Pennsylvania.
I'm Eastern Pennsylvania, so it's like a 7-hour drive. And then on top of that, usually beyond, I usually wrestle beyond the same weekends they have shows. And in this case, I was going to wrestle beyond the 29th, which is in Boston, and then drive to Cleveland, Ohio, which is about a 14-hour drive.
So, I mean, you're definitely not hurting for bookings, that's for sure. And that, I guess Cleveland wasn't as close to you as I thought it was. So, I mean,
the thing is, they have a good reputation. They bring in talent. They've had good talent go through there. But at the same time, as Forrest Griffin would say, is the juice worth the squeeze? And, with my future with AIW, the way they were booking me, the amount of money I was spending just to get up there and just be part of the action, the juice was not worth the squeeze.
So it's like there's so much to just think about here. Like because I mean AIW, I mean they're a pretty prominent indie promotion. They are solid, and you don't seem to have any qualms with that relationship souring.
Not at all. The best part about independent professional wrestling, I'm not locked down to one place. Like I said I didn't want to wrestle there. I was pretty clear about that earlier on. They still booked me. They advertised me. I told them that wasn't fair to the fans and myself. They went to social media, and honestly, by them going to social media, it helps me get even more bookings other places. And honestly, if you heard if I could go into detail what other promoters / wrestlers / fans had to say to me about the situation, they didn't really have anything really nice to say about AIW either.
Why do you think that is?
Probably, and I don't want to start anything, but it's probably because John Thorne, I think he was the one I was speaking to. He's the one that went to Twitter, and he's the one that acted out. So I think, and from what I heard, he's the big problem in that equation.
Now, I'm not necessarily all hip to AIW, not as much as I would like to be, considering, they did an MMA crossover show earlier this year. Now, I know that was the show that you mentioned. I believe that was the show where you got kicked in the balls by a pirate, correct?
Correct. And Lewis Linden's a good wrestler. I like Lewis. He is good.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, that's about it. It does messed up when you wrestle certain places, and it just, like I said, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. I could go on all day about it, but they were extremely unprofessional. Even the last time I wrestled for them, when we did the tag tournament, they were extremely unprofessional, and it wasn't fun. And that's the biggest thing for me. I wrestle because I have fun. If I'm not having fun, I don't want to be there.
You had mentioned a little something regarding the backstage environment at AIW. Are you able to elaborate on that at all?
I'd rather not, just because I don't want to rub people the wrong way, but I think they know who they are. I'll mention one name, big name, Steve Payne. He had a contract with Lucha Underground. He was wrestling AIW. He was released from Lucha Underground because he's extremely hard to work with. It's hard to call matches with. Extremely stubborn and very bad at calling matches. And that's the reason why he was released from Lucha Underground. And, you know, when I wrestled with him and his tag team partner, who was green as hell, it was the same way. They wanted to call all these big spots, pop up this, pop up that, da-da-da-da. They didn't want to tell a story. They didn't want to have any back and forth. And it was extremely, extremely difficult, to the point where I personally didn't want to call a goddamn thing in the match, and I just wanted to go out there and see what happened. And, of course, they didn't want to do that. They were afraid because I was going to go out there and fuck them up. So
yeah. Do you run into that a lot where people are afraid you might shoot on them in the ring?
Well, there's always the possibility of me doing it, but at the same time, most of the people I work with are educated, smart people that know how the business is done. And working that's what I'm saying. When I worked with Steve Payne and even John Thorne, those were the two big red flags at the last time I was there for Double Dare, and those were the two main reasons why I didn't want to be part of the AIW family, you know?